Hello. This video is about Alice's adventures in Wonderland and mostly about chapters 5 and 6. Okay, so this is lesson 4 now of the Alice's Adventures in Wonderland series of lessons. Okay, first, just think back to the very end of chapter 4 when Alice got to the top of the mushroom. And the caterpillar that she saw on top was smoking. Do you think she would have been surprised to find that caterpillar smoking on top of the mushroom? Have a think about that just to get your brains warmed up to start with. For me, I suspect probably she wouldn't have been surprised because so many strange things have happened. That's what she keeps on saying. So many strange things have happened that she isn't really surprised by anything anymore. Okay, well, today we're going to be reading chapter 5 and chapter 6. So what I'd actually like to do straight away is to pause this video and go ahead and read chapter 5 and chapter 6 now. Now, relax into it, particularly with chapter 5. Just relax into it and enjoy the nonsense. I think you'll particularly enjoy the wonderful nonsense poem in the middle of chapter 5. You are old, Father William. You'll love that one. So relax and enjoy it. So pause this video now and come back again once you've read to the end of chapter 6. Okie doke. Now, I'm going to explain the tasks that I want you to do. Now, for that, I'm going to read the first extract to you, which is from a couple of pages into chapter 6, okay? And this is when when Alice is talking about the Duchess sneezing because all the pepper in the air, and there was far too much pepper in there. Certainly too much pepper in the soup, and certainly too much in the air as well. Okay, the only things in the kitchen that did not sneeze were the cook and a large cat, which was sitting on the hearth and grinning from ear to ear. "Please, would you tell me," said Alice, a little timidly, for she was not quite sure whether it was good manners for her to speak first, "why your cat grins like that?" "It's a Cheshire Cat," said the Duchess, "and that's why. Pig!" She said the last word with such sudden violence that Alice quite jumped, but she saw in another moment that it was addressed to the baby and not to her, so she took courage and went on again. "I didn't know that Cheshire Cats always grinned. In fact, I didn't know that cats could grin." "They all can," said the Duchess, "and most of them do." "I don't know of any that do," Alice said, very politely, feeling quite pleased to have got into a conversation. "You don't know much," said the Duchess, "and that's a fact." Okay, so with that extract, your first task is going to be to look up the Cheshire Cat. So look up what is a Cheshire Cat and find out where that story originates, so where it comes from. Now, the idea of a grinning Cheshire Cat actually predates, I know originates means comes from, predates, that means comes before. I know, complicated words, don't worry about it. Predates, comes before this book actually being published. So the idea of a Cheshire Cat comes before that. But this is now, we've forgotten most of the stories that came before. So this is now one of the oldest examples that we still have, that we still use, where Cheshire Cat comes. And you find that people often say, if someone's smiling really widely from ear to ear, is another idiom we might use, but we might say they're grinning like a Cheshire Cat. Now I want you to research that, so Google Cheshire Cat, find out where that comes from. Now you should find that there are actually several different stories as to where that might have come from. And so what I would like you to do is to write them all down and then think of your own one. So think of your own story for how that could have originated. And it could be a complete lie. It could be completely made up, okay? In fact, it should be completely made up. So make up a story of where that phrase, grinning like a Cheshire Cat, could come from. I thought of one. I thought it could come from the fact that the county of Cheshire is shaped exactly like a cat. Exactly like a cat. And in the middle of where the cat's face, where the mouth would be, there's a large lake in Cheshire called Lake Grin, and that's where we get the phrase "grinning like a Cheshire cat" from. Now, none of that's true. That's completely made up. Not true at all. Cheshire doesn't look anything like a cat. There is no lake in Cheshire called Lake Grin, as far as I'm aware. If there is, let me know. But that's the kind of thing that I want you to make up. Make up your own story for how that phrase "grinning like a Cheshire cat" could have come about, because we don't exactly know. So you might as well make something up. Okay, so the second extract I'm going to read is just over the page from that one before. And this is when the Duchess is telling Alice that everyone should mind their own business. "If everybody minded their own business," the Duchess said in a hoarse growl, "the world would go round a deal faster than it does." "Which would not be an advantage," said Alice, who felt very glad to get an opportunity of showing off a little of her knowledge. "Just think what work it would make with the day and night. You see, the Earth takes 24 hours to turn round on its axis." "Talking of axes," said the Duchess, "chop off her head." Okay, so we've got another pun here. Remember we had puns in the lesson previously? We had puns on the words "not" and tail, for example. Well, this time we've got it on axes and axis. Okay, AXIS and AXES. So could you try to explain that pun? If you're not sure, look up the definition of AXIS and AXES and go from there. Okay, because remember, a pun is when we're taking two words that either look and sound exactly the same or look and sound very similar, but they have different meanings, and we're making a joke out of that misunderstanding. Okay, now you could leave it there, okay, because that's question 2. Tasks or questions 3 and 4 are much more complicated, okay? I think it's a good bit of fun to give it a go. So if you're feeling adventurous, that's what we're going to do, and we're going to learn about logic. If you don't want to try it, then you can skip straight on to reading chapter 7, so that you're all ready for the next lesson, which is going to be lesson 5. If you're brave and you're staying along, then good for you. So deducing is a key skill of all readers. Deductive reasoning is where you work something out from known facts. You make a deduction, you deduce something. Now, as I said, deducing is a key skill of all readers. But Carol, the author, is testing us here, really testing us by throwing in logical fallacies. Now, logical fallacy is basically an argument that does not make sense, but often they look like they make sense until you really think about them. So, the first extract I'm going to read to you for logical fallacies comes from the end of chapter 5, a page or so before the end. "A likely story indeed," said the pigeon in a tone of the deepest contempt. "I've seen a good many little girls in my time, but never one with such a neck as that. No, no, you're a serpent, and there's no use denying it. I suppose you'll be telling me next that you've never tasted an egg." "I have tasted eggs, certainly," said Alice, who was a very truthful child, "but little girls eat eggs quite as much as serpents do, you know." "I don't believe it," said the pigeon, "but if they do, why, then they're a kind of serpent. That's all I can say." Okay, so the pigeon is saying that Alice must be a serpent because she eats eggs and serpents eat eggs. If serpents eat eggs, and Alice does as well, then Alice must be a serpent. Well, clearly Alice is not a serpent, so we know some kind of logical fallacy has gone on here. So what's happened? Well, this is called either affirming the consequence or confusing necessary and sufficient. Basically, what happens is you take a true statement, such as serpents eat eggs, that's true, but you fail to realize that although you have to eat eggs to be a serpent, you don't have to be a serpent to eat eggs. It is necessary to be a serpent to eat eggs, but it is not sufficient. It is not the only thing that makes you a serpent. So it is not true to say that all things that eat eggs are serpents. It's the same as if I were to say, dogs have 4 legs, my cat has 4 legs, Therefore, my cat is a dog. Well, my cat isn't a dog, because although it's necessary to be a dog to have 4 legs, it's not sufficient. It's not the only thing that makes a dog a dog. So this was called affirming the consequence, or confusing necessary and sufficient. And your third task is basically to explain that logical fallacy using an argument, using an example rather of your own. Okay, next one. I'm going to read further on again, back into chapter 6 now, and this is from when the Cheshire Cat, has just said that Alice could go to visit either the Hatter or the March Hare, but they're both mad. Okay, so you could pause this and find that extract now if you like. When you found it, okay? But I don't want to go among mad people, Alice remarked. Oh, you can't help that, said the cat. We're all mad here. I'm mad, you're mad. How do you know I'm mad? Said Alice. You must be, said the cat, or you wouldn't have come here. Now, this one actually is a valid argument. This is perfectly logical. Everything here is mad, so if you're here, then you're mad. That's perfectly logical. As long as we accept the initial premise, the initial stated argument that, or the initial statement, in fact, that the argument is predicated on, which is that everything here is mad, and we do accept that clearly Wonderland is a place where everything is mad, then Alice being there certainly makes her mad as well. Because if everything in Wonderland is mad, and Alice is in Wonderland, she is one of the things in Wonderland, then she must be mad. So that's absolutely fine. But this extract does go on to then have an actual logical fallacy. Alice didn't think that proved it at all. However, she went on. And how do you know that you're mad? To begin with, said the cat, a dog's not mad. You grant that? I suppose so, said Alice. Well then, the cat went on, you see, a dog growls when it's angry and wags its tail when it's pleased. Now I growl when I'm pleased and wag my tail when I'm angry. Therefore, I'm mad. Right. Now we do have a logical fallacy. This one is called denying the antecedent. Okay, one thing leads to another, therefore not one thing leads to not another. That's what we're saying here. Well, that's not the case, because here the one thing is wagging your tail when you're happy. And the cat is telling us that that tells us that you're sane. Well, even if that's true, it doesn't mean that not wagging your tail means that you're not sane. I might as well say, if you are watching this video, then you have eyes. That's definitely true. So if we put the not in front of them, anyone not watching this video, therefore does not have eyes. Is that true? Is it true that anyone not watching this video doesn't have eyes? Well, no, it's not true, okay? You only need to look at the number of views to see that, yeah? Clearly, there are many people in the world who do have eyes but are not watching this video. This is denying the antecedent. So what I would like you to do is to come up, or just to explain that definition, okay? And you can Google for that one as well, just like you can Google for the previous one, confusing the necessary and the sufficient. You can Google for both of those. I'd like you to write it down and come up with your own example if you can to illustrate it. I get it that that's hard, but if you can't do it, it really doesn't matter, okay? But it might be a bit of fun if you really want to be adventurous, okay? Enjoy.